to be able to share your question and response in our email outreach for this weekend's upcoming retreat. So, and really more and more for all of you, listen, our LNL is this, again, group of friends. We're here, we're gathering to look more deeply into this inquiry. Many of you, as I was just speaking with the life leaders about, have stepped into reconnective healing long ago, where the emphasis was fully and solely around learning to work. It was a practice that you were learning in a way. And that was the nature of the it or the is that we call the reconnective healing experience was always there, but the attention or the emphasis was learning in a way how to facilitate or how to do it. This sort of gathering of all that we are exploring since the RLC came into form, and the live and learns are sort of this focus, I guess, for each conversation that we have every week, has really brought us, I'm going to say, more directly interested and curious about not our journey to, but our journey in. And that has brought up many, many, many topics. It was very exciting to see how the conversation unfolded last week in our conversation around losing normal. And we're going to have a chance in the upcoming Q&A to kind of merge that conversation with today's conversation, which is the encounter. And so for those of you who are part of the All Access on Tuesday, look at the whole month, each of you. The month is really the nature of healing. And so, yeah, I think that's a good beginning place. We're going to have a mix of a conversation today.
And looking at the encounter presents some challenges, which I began to really discover when I had initially started looking at, let's create an exercise. Interesting thing about an exercise is that oftentimes to do it, you need a comparison, which to be able to have a comparison and see where you're going may mean that you are cognizantly in awareness of something. Now, however we look at the encounter, when we first recognize it, it's already happened. Kind of a funny kind of thing.
In a way,
how do you recognize that which is? But when
and let's pause on that.
Right, yeah.
I want you to take a minute to just contemplate, not so much on paper unless it calls you. How can we recognize that which is? Just noodle a bit, swim in that for a moment. The mind won't like it. How can we recognize that which is? And some of the examples very early in the year and last year when we first emerged, we were inquiring around that question. How do you walk towards yourself? How do you walk towards yourself? How can we recognize that which is? In that way, there is a simplicity that cognizance just wants no part of. It just wants no part of it.
Yeah. So a tangible comparison a little bit for me was, if you had asked me, 25 years ago, tell me about your initial encounter with the energy, light, and information, the reconnective healing intelligence, I would have shared the story of the lamp turning on and the bedroom door opening and everything that evolved past that. But that wasn't my encounter. That was what first showed up for me in a way that I needed to be able to recognize cognizantly that something had occurred, and it showed up in phenomena. And a lot of us get lost in phenomena, and yet phenomena is maybe more than we want to admit self-created. In a sense, it is a way that we as energy, light, and information get to talk to ourselves in a way that our limited expression of ourselves, our finite expression as a human being, can recognize something, because our minds will try to tell us that nothing has taken place if we didn't recognize it. Which is, which can come up in many ways and become problematic, even confusing, even when someone says, oh, I didn't have a healing. And what they're really saying is they didn't recognize it. I didn't have an encounter. Oh, well, I guess I didn't recognize it yet.
And if we are to keep it simple as we can.
Yeah, especially because I complicate it when I
No,
explain it.
I think that this is pivotal, and we're going to explore the idea of each of our encounters today in a little bit. But if we understand that the infinite being, that which is, isn't something that can be known. It's what remains after everything is known. And we take a more direct path than even that by understanding that everything is known. And that's part of what you explored in Losing Normal last week. Everything is known. And therefore, the experiences of our life cannot be the knower. The experiences of our life are the longing that never finds what it's looking for. What we didn't exactly connect last week was even the collapse of intentions. Our intentions are the finite mechanic of our human embodiment, moving forces from matter to matter and mind to matter. And it's very powerful. But ultimately, the longing that it's looking for isn't found there. So if we really observe our life, we might recognize longing just comes to rest in looking. The looking ceases and it comes to rest. And that might be a moment of satisfaction or a feeling of love, but it is finite in nature. So we're going to say something that we want you to just take in and try not to assign a variety of identities to this statement. The knowledge of being is darkness for the mind and luminous or light for the encounter.
I would almost say, you could say it a little differently.
Yeah.
Instead of saying that the knowledge of being is darkness for the mind, maybe it's darkness to the mind, dark to the mind, because the encounter is what is lit up. Our mind cannot see the encounter.
Right. So in a reconnective healing experience, you are continuously immersed in that darkness, the encounter. And that's why our thoughts often become veiled, even just in the attention that's so almost with no thinking at all, even feeling if you all just for a moment, just bring your attention to the familiarity of the frequencies themselves, you'll recognize the longing. You'll recognize the longing. And this sort of immersion that happens is why our thoughts become veiled. We relinquish the intentional act of thinking in a way without being asked permission to relinquish that activity. It just happens without doing.
I think it's in a sense, it's a knowingness that the only way to truly have this encounter is to relinquish the thinking mind, because the thinking mind is what creates a limitation.
So do you think that's, would you say you
The
think
encounter
that
comes
it's
first.
intentional that the thinking mind is released?
It's not intentional in a thinking way. I think it's hard to find the words. It's not that it's intentional by being our intention. I think it's, if we take out human, it's the intention of the design, which is beyond the human thinking. The design, the recognition on some higher level is that our cognitive thinking tends to create constraints around an encounter.
It's so this conversation is the perfect intersection of witnessing what is most profound and completely ununderstandable about the reconnective healing experience. And 20 years later, even Dr. Eric is
discovering
and
more.
Investigating. We are investigating this this way in which we come to rest. We come to rest in the longing that we can never find.
It's the design. It's the reason of the design, which is not intention by intentional mind.
Right.
But I would say it is the intended, if that word even works, design of a higher knowingness.
So the impulse, I'm going to pop to the impulse here. The encounter in a way might be a realization that the name I am, not I am Jillian, I am Terry, I am Cecilia, I am Alejandro, I am Harry, I am Eric. The encounter, realizing in the realization of the name I is so sacred that we don't allow it to become disturbed or tarnished by experience. And this includes any known experience. And
disturbed, tarnished, even as Rupert Spira might say, qualified even by experience. It is unqualified because it is infinite and unlimited.
So we're going to explore with each of you. You're going to take a moment and we're going to explore your understanding of the mystical. Because the encounter isn't the mystical in the understanding of before, beyond, or that we refer to as energy, light, and information experiencing itself as each one of us. So the experience is the mystical. And I just want to give you a little kind of play with some words that define the mystical. Spiritual is considered the mystical. Religious, transcendental, transcendent, paranormal, otherworldly, supernatural, non-rational, occult, metaphysical, ineffable. So,
but here's the key word to think about: mysterious. It's a mystery. Mystical can relate to mystery, but is it really? Or is it only a
Spirit.
mystery to our thinking mind that sees the tangible and yet the knowingness of the I am, the knowingness of the infinite? In other words, that is why the comparison was made before. What was darkness to the mind was actually
Luminous.
luminous to the heart.
And to being. So it's not possible for consciousness, the entity, one entity, our oneness, that which we are, to know itself. And this takes us to sort of back to the beginning of our conversation. How can we recognize that which is? How do we walk towards ourself?
Especially when recognition to most of us means, tells us that somehow we know it's there, whether it's through our vision or a sound or a sensation. How do we recognize? And we think of recognition again in a four-dimensional kind of a plane of object or vision.
And subject and object,
Right,
and
and
subject
subject
and
and
object.
object.
So we have to consider that there is no subject to the object for it to know all that is. It knows itself through the agency of humans being, or a human being. And when we say energy, light, and information experiences itself through each one of us, we there collapse this duality between our true nature and otherness, our true nature and experience. That is the collapsing of it. Now, again, many of you are understanding and recognizing the reconnective healing experience through this very tangible, sensorial, we'll say, interaction experience. And there is tremendous recognition in this. So we're stretching inward. We're turning around from that is the experience or the sensation, and we're going to take that inward path.
As Dane says, truth is behind the thoughts. Part of this reminds me of even just, everyday earthly concepts. You picture the old, the concept of going to see a psychologist, and where did it all begin? And where do you want to go back? Did it begin when I was 7? Did it begin here? It began on a rainy Tuesday night when I was born in the evening. But did it begin when we were conceived? Did it begin in the intention? Did it begin in decision? At what point is a beginning, and does a beginning remain limited to the cognizant of what we're aware of? Or is the before beyond the beginningless?
Yes. And I love how you put the before beyond as the beginningless. Think of it again. I love the idea of a movie. Where does a movie begin and end?
At the box office.
Right. It begins and ends in your movie theater, your home theater, your television, your computer. It begins and ends when it emerges out of and returns to. But there is all that expresses the movie that never changes. And we've spoken about this. We don't want to, it's a wonderful example often used in non-duality, the screen. And so since so much of what we immerse in is the activity of the reconnective healing frequencies.
And we can immerse in recognizing that we want to greet and say hello and goodbye to the YouTubers. But listen,
you're missing the exercise.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to, because you can go to the link in Zoom and join us. I mean, the link in the chat, and join us on Zoom for those of you who would like to do that.
Cool. Bye, YouTubers. We'll see you later.
See some of you sooner.
Yeah. So I think, let's share a little bit just the past 3 decades. Let's give a reference before we plunge into this exercise together and then go to the life leader. So
Well, part of what we know is that over the past 3 decades, give or take, the reconnective healing experience has really redefined healing as it's recognized, healing as it's received. So much before that, it was so focused on a specific result or bringing us back to where we thought our optimal physical, tangible, four-dimensional experience has been here. When I was 6, I used to be able to put my hands behind my head or something. And we found that. Hey there, family. Dr. Eric and Jillian here.
welcome, everyone.
And we're very excited about Reconnective Life, our first online global community. This is the most exciting way we've been able to get together since I founded the Reconnection. It'll be a place where we can do things together. We'll move into breakout rooms at times when that's appropriate. We'll have energy interactions and meditations and exercises. In other words, expect things you haven't seen before.
You are so charged.
Things
He is so lit about every new way we get to be together every day. Just be together. Let us just speak a little bit about what is going to be the shape of this community.
In this community, we can share and discover more. Here we can talk to each other, we can chat, we can learn from and about one another. Jillian, me, our life leaders, and you will be in daily conversation with you. Weekly, we will have Facebook Lives.
We will be with you every Wednesday. Sometimes it'll be just Eric. On occasion, it might just be me. Sometimes it'll be the two of us. It's all about giving you a way to look at the week living in the frequencies.
And in every 4th week, we will include a live Q&A so we can talk about things that have been coming up for us, discuss back and forth, share, grow, expand together.
And the ever-growing library of content that has been created over 20 years that will be on demand for you. It will be on-demand content for you to view, enjoy, share again with your inner circle.
And monthly, we are going to have live Zoom retreats. We're going to bring in some exercises and experiences and things that previously we've reserved for our physical retreats, when we were in the different location resorts and things. And we're modifying them so that we can work with these with you in your home, in your living room, in your den. Put into the chat line, what is facility? We're having these weekly Zoom in-depth Q&As.
Finally, we have a place and space to just define what does that really mean living in the frequencies.
This is something that is in all of us.
Everyone can do this.
It doesn't matter how many levels you've gone through or how well you know the programs. It's a community that allows us to recognize how interrelated we all are as receivers of energy, light, and information.
See you there.
Reconnective Life, living in the frequencies every day.